Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to askNK. Today we're taking a look at the newly updated version of Hunyuan 3D as version 2.5 is now here. Hunyuan 3D is an open source high quality 3D generative model from the folks at Tencent, and the brand new version, which is Hunyuan 3D version 2.5, now makes it super easy for you to throw in a single image and generate animated characters. There's also an inclusion of a surface reduction AI tool, a SketchUp 3D tool which allows you to throw in a sketch and generate 3D models based off that sketch with guided prompts, and of course there are tons of new features and stuff that are now available with this new release. More so, they've also updated this entire system and it is looking impressive. The previous time we talked about this tool, it was when version 2.0 was announced, and we did mention that this now uses over 3 billion parameters and has a processing time of 1 minute. The fact that this was super amazing for anyone to generate 3D models by simply throwing in a single image to make these things possible was mind-blowing. Of course, there were other tools that did promise a couple of interesting things, but Hunyuan 3D has taken this up a notch by producing even more stuff. And initially, when we talked about the Hunyuan 3D version 2, we mentioned that if you go over to Hugging Face, you'll be able to explore it. And this was available for everyone totally for free, as it's open source and has a ton of features that it offers. However, a couple of things have changed and some improvements are now available since the last time we talked about the Hunyuan 3D. And by the way, for those who have no idea how this works, this is pretty easy. Currently, if you go over to Hugging Face, you would still be able to have access to this and you can still explore it. However, things have changed, especially the UI. Previously, when we talked about this, it was pretty easy. You could literally work with any image and generate PBR textures with it. At this point, you don't really have that. The UI now looks even different, as all you need to do to start making stuff is to either load in an image, or you can put in a prompt, or you can select from the images that exist within the gallery. You'd also notice that at this point, you can no longer generate PBR textures. So some other things that you might also notice that may have changed is once you start generating a shape, you now have to select a target count just before you'll be able to download it. This is to mitigate the issues that a lot of people had when they had to download millions of polygon mesh prior to being able to use it in their DCC tools. Although, when we talked about the Hunyuan 3D version 2.0, we still talked about how you can solve all of these situations when you're working with tools like ZBrush and also Blender. So just in case you like to remesh these things yourself and get a better looking quality model, there are ways that you can do that, and I'm going to link that video in the description. And at this point, you can now select the target count that you want, select the file type that you want, simplify the mesh if you choose to, before you'll be able to download it. Some other issues that a lot of people had, and of course some other issues that 2.0 had, which has been addressed with 2.5, is the fact that this was not so good at approximating the back of characters. So for example, with characters like the croc, that was pretty cool, it kind of does a good job with this one. However, with the boy and the backpack, this doesn't seem to be doing a good job, and it is one of those things that 2.5 seems to be addressing. Details is also another thing 2.5 is addressing, and limitations to how many times you get to use the tool is also one of the big advantages of 2.5. As with 2.0, once you're working with this on Hugging Face, at certain points this will tell you that you've hit your limit, and this is mostly when you've generated over 2 to 3 different models. You will no longer be able to generate more models. Like you can see right here, it says we've got an error, and if we simply click on generate shape, you'll now notice it urges us to create an account and start working with it, as we've now exceeded the GPU quota for using this tool at this point for free. And 2.5 solves this problem by allowing you to generate over 20 different models every single day. More so, there is also a little bit of a workaround just in case you like to generate way more than 20 models per day, and that is a bit of a hack that is currently existing with the system that they've just put together, which we're also going to go ahead and explore. So first things first, for you to get started, all you need to do is to go over to the link in the description, which is 3d.hunyuan.tencent.com, and you need to log in. This is very, very important. And it's also important to know that the whole website is a Chinese website, so you need to make sure that you've got your translation turned on all the time. Click on login, and this is going to allow you log in any of these 3 modes: WeChat, QQ, or Mail. So Mail seems to be one that I think a lot of us would actually resonate with. So you need to put in your email and click on get verification code. This is going to offer you a verification code. You need to put that verification code right here, agree to the terms and condition, and log in. And once you log in, this is what you have. You now have a website where you can literally do a ton of things. And only when you log in would you be able to have access to this. Now, a little disclaimer I need to put out there is this video is nowhere sponsored by this company. It's a tool that is heavily evolving, and I think it is worth mentioning it to you guys, especially because we are all in this fair, and having knowledge of what the next generation of stuff looks like might just help you get informed and stay ahead. And so to work with this is this simple. So with the new platform that we've got here, you can take a look at any of the ones that they've generated before. So they've generated a ton of things. So you can click on any of them and you can just literally preview them. You can see the reference image. So we've got this single image right there, and we can simply go ahead and take a look at this. This looks pretty cool. So we can look at that. If we like this to automatically rotate, you can have that. If you want to see this in all clear, you can have that. You want to see just the albedo, you can have that as well. You want to see the normals, you can have that as well. And once you're ready, you can simply go ahead, hit the download button and download the file. And of course, you can bring this into any DCC app of choice and start playing with it, just like we did when we talked about the 2.0. And with that said, 3D models can be generated with this brand new model in two different ways. Now, you can either use the Tencent 3D by simply typing in a prompt, and then you can select any of the style that you like the texturing to be like, and then generate that. Or you can go ahead and take a look at the Supercharged 3D, and the Supercharged 3D would allow you upload a single image or multiple images. And this was one of the requests that a lot of you guys had earlier. So if you've got like the front, rear, left, right side of an image that you're trying to generate from, you can simply throw that in and you can select generate PBR map and hit the generate button. You can also use single images like we did before, and you can specify the model that you'd like to work with, whether it's 2.0 or 2.5, and generate with it. And unlike 2.0, 2.5 does a very good job at approximating the back of the model. So you can see what the back of the model kind of looks like by just simply using one side of the image. And this is really, really cool. Now, another place where we're going to see a very good example of how this works is with the boy and the backpack. So if we simply upload that as well, you can see that after a while, once this generates, we now have a backpack for the boy. And that looks pretty cool. Compared to what we had before, you can tell that this looks way better. The texturing looks better. We've also got more details for the hair, and we've also got more details overall for the character itself. So in terms of dealing with depth and also details, this has a more better way of handling it. Of course, at the end of the day, an artist needs to still go in and make some modifications to this overall. If you're also looking at working with complex models like this robot, of course, you can also proceed to generate stuff like this. This is also going to do a very good job at generating a complex humanoid model like this robot. Like you can see several parts are here and there, and even parts that we didn't screenshot when we actually got the image, it also went ahead to generate it. And if you're wondering if you've seen this image before, yes, it is a screenshot image that we took from the folks at CG Cookie alongside the folks at Orange Turbine, as this has been featured in several tutorials that they've made. And for those who are thinking about doing cleanups for their model, possibly you want to do some UVs, or maybe you're thinking about doing some retopple, then you might want to consider taking a look at the courses, or maybe you might want to consider taking a look at their plugins that they've made before. And speaking about plugins, you might want to consider taking a look at the Super Hive launch bundle, which is one of the biggest deals that are currently available in previously known Blender market. And this is offering 28 game-changing Blender add-ons for only $30. So whether you're thinking about getting retopple flow, which you can use for making your topologies, or maybe you're looking for materials or assets that you can use to fine-tune your overall scene, or possibly you're just looking for some rendering stuff that you can work with, or maybe you're into hard surface models or any of these amazing things that are right here, then you can come through and take advantage of this particular bundle that is running from now till 8th of May 2025. Interestingly, Orange Flow, creator of Retopple Flow, has also put together UV Flow. A UV Flow is an amazing tool that will definitely help you create quick and nice looking UVs easily inside of Blender. So just in case you want to generate these models and you want to cut your UVs quickly and nicely without the headache of depending on several other tools to make this possible, you might want to consider taking a look at this. And also you might want to consider taking a look at this bundle offer that is going on and grab it while offer lasts. The links to this is going to be in the description, so do well to check it out. And with this said, what if you're thinking about generating a model that you would like to add animations to automatically? And that is also something that Hunyuan 3D version 2.5 also offers. And this works in two ways. First off, you can drag and drop an image, which is either in an A pose or a T pose, to generate a 3D model that you would like to work with. It is best to do this as if the proximity between where the hands or the legs are too close. You might not get the best kind of automatic bone binding. And once you have the character generated, you can now proceed to use the automatic bone binding to bind joints to the model. And this is going to take a little while. And once this has been bound, you can see what the model looks like. So by default, once you bind this, you have a couple of animations right here, and you can simply click on Show Skeleton. And to be honest, what we have here is pretty clean. Like the fact that this just simply understands where to place this joint and gets it all the way to the feet looks cool. Now to test any of the motions, or able to test this to see how it works, what we can do is to select on any of these ones and automatically the animation will kick in. So let's take a look at the jump. This is going to generate the animation and bake it into the skeleton of this model. And once this is done, you can see what the animation looks like. So at any point in time you would like to explore any of the animations that are right here, you can select them. There's also different geometric styles that exist, but in this case, once you're ready to go, you can select any of the download formats and click on download to download this. So in this case, for what we want, what we're going to do is just simply find a pose, or maybe find any of the animations that we want. The kick animation looks cool, and we're going to download that. Now, once you download this is where you might want to consider doing a few things. Because if you just import this, say for example, we drag and drop the GLB file, the bone shape is going to be by 1. So make sure you have your merge vertices. That was something that we actually figured out with the previous video. So you need to go in, make sure you have that. The scale is set to 1 by default. But what this simply means is when you import your motion, this is what you're going to get. We've got large joints. So this is not something that we'll like to do with. So we're simply going to go ahead and bring this back in. So to bring this in, what I would suggest is you set this to 0.01. This might be your best case scenario. Like set this to 0.01, import it, and then this is going to come in with the joints exactly where they're supposed to be without them being unnecessarily big. So we're going to dive right in and you can see it. So just in case you guessed it earlier, yeah, the joints are powered by Mixamo. So if we go into the amateur, you can see that these are fully Mixamo rigs. This simply means that you may be able to bake Mixamo animations into this. Of course, there are tons of Blender add-ons that support Mixamo animation baking and also animation transfers. You can simply go ahead and check them out. If you've got Auto Rig Pro, that's also another interesting one that allows you to do all of that stuff. You can also go ahead and explore that. Cool stuff are currently available on Superhive right now, so you can go through and check them out. So once you've got that ready, you can now play with as many Mixamo animations that exist and bake them onto this model. And that is one way of how you can go from a simple image to creating an animation ready model. And this works on literally any model that supports T-pose or A-pose. But what if you've got a model that isn't T-pose or A-pose, but then you would like to rig it? Well, as far as it's a humanoid model, this is possible, and that is where the nodal workflow comes in very handy. So Hunyuan 3D version 2.5 has a couple of interesting workflows that you can explore, and for you to actually get things going, especially with models that are not T-pose, is by coming over to the workflow section and selecting graphic game character workflow. And once you have this selected, you can now start exploring this. So for our own use case, what we're going to do is to load the image. So once we load the image of our boy with the backpack, let's actually go ahead and enlarge it. You can hold down Control on your keyboard and zoom in just in case you like to navigate across the nodes. So once you get in, this is going to identify the image and keep it. So at this point, you would notice that we've got this image, the character's hands are, almost at the same place. We might possibly want to generate PBR textures as well, and we're going to select that. So once we have this ready, we can click on Run. Once we click on Run, what will happen is that this is going to process and start the whole segmentation process. And once segmentation is done, it's going to proceed to the scale standardization, which would force the image to become T-pose. And once that happens, this is also going to run through and generate a 3D model of the image. So what it's doing is to take a look at these two images and using them as bases to generate the 3D model. And once the 3D model is generated, of course, you can move around it and preview what it looks like. At this point, if you like to download this, you can download the GLB. And if you like to download this as well, for reference sake, you can also click on this download button to download the PNG. So once this is done, the texture takes progress. Once the texture generation is done, the bone binding is the next step. And once the bone binding is done, the dynamic driving of animation on the model starts off. And so this intelligently rigs the model and then applies animation to it. And once this is done, you can see the animation that is baked into it. Of course, you can take a look at all the other animations that are right here. So we can go from stride to fall, jump, kick, swing, walk, run, and also dance. So if you like to, say, for example, bake the dance onto the model, what we can do is this simple. We can zoom all the way back, have this selected, and click on run one more time. So this is going to run through the entire process, and once it confirms that all the other process has been done before, it's going to fast track all of them and quickly get to the dynamic driving where it will apply the animation. So again, there are certain bugs to expect with this. One of the bugs you might be seeing with this over time is at certain points, the dynamic driving, which deals with the animation preview, may not be visible. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been done. All you need to do is to refresh your browser and you'll be able to see it. And once you're done, you can simply click on the download button and download either the FBX or the GLB file. And any of these that you download, you can bring into your DCC tool. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with this at this point. Other than that, if you simply go over to the template section, you can select any of these templates and start creating stuff. Maybe you like to do some mesh reduction. Maybe you like to write the prompt and generate the character and also drive that based off animation. You can also go ahead and do that. Use multiple views to create props. Interestingly, you can also use multiple views to create characters and have them animated. And so we already did something like that earlier. So if we simply go back to the workflow section and take a look at what we have right here, you'll notice that we've got this character right around here. Of course, a huge shout out to Yusuf Al-Haddad, the creator of this 3D model that we used as an example for this particular session. And this is his take on Levi Ackerman from Attack of Titan. So what we did was just simply come through and take a couple of references that we have here to see what this tool can actually do. And so what we did was to plug them right in here. And of course, we know we already had just the left-hand side, and we did flip the image to produce the right side. Once you load up this in, you can now proceed to run this. And so once you run this, it's also going to go ahead and do exactly the same thing, use some segmentation technique, take a look at everything and create a 3D model. Of course, this is the 3D model that we have. It now proceeded to create textures and bound joints to the model and then made the animation. Of course, you can select from any of these animations that we want and apply them to our model. So if we like to get the swing one, we can also have that selected and we can click the run one more time. And this is going to process the entire thing and produce the animation. Other than this, there's also a couple of interesting things that are now here. If you go over to the laboratory section, you'll be able to see the 3D animation generation. This allows you to bring in any mesh and you can simply bind stuff to it. So if you do have a 3D model that you like to bind, if you don't have one, you just want to test out, see what things looks like, you can select any of these meshes. And once you have them selected, you'll be able to see what the joint looks like. And you can actually go ahead and download them, start creating stuff with them. So this is one of them. We've also got the 3D Intelligent Surface Reduction tool, which allows you to simply reduce mesh density. So if you have a 3D model and you like to reduce the mesh density of that 3D model, you can do that. If you like to generate a 3D model and also reduce the mesh density, you can also do that. At the same time, we've got the 3D texture generation. So again, same, if you've got a 3D model that you like to generate textures for, you can bring that model in, describe how you like things to be, or you can simply throw in an image and use that to describe what you want things to look like, and you can generate stuff with it. So here's an example of one of them that was generated before. And speaking about bugs and stuff to keep in mind, if you do load any file and it's not loading, simply toggle across any of these, do a couple of zoom in, zoom out, refresh the page, and these would eventually load. So just in case you encounter the same situation, maybe stuff isn't loading as expected, you can simply toggle across all of these or give it some time for this to load. And if it doesn't load, you can refresh your page and get it loaded. Within the laboratory section, there's also the 3D character generation. And this is a bit more bespoke. Say you have an image of someone and you like to create a 3D character avatar for that person. Of course, you can also do that. And these are very impressive things that you can now do with Hunyuan 3D version 2.5. So with the bespoke image, you can start making bespoke avatars and use them wherever and however you like. Within the laboratory section, there's also the 3D minigame creation and also the SketchUp 3D. Sketch to 3D seems to be a bit more interesting for me as it allows you to simply draw sketches, and then once you put in a prompt, you can now create 3D models based off the sketch and the prompt guidance that you've just done. So for example, we've got a couch, which is described as a leather sofa. This is the image that was thrown in, and this is the prompt word that was used. We've also got a vehicle here, which is prompted as a silver sports car. This is the image that was uploaded, and this is the 3D model that was generated. So it's pretty impressive what the folks at Tencent have done with this new update that they've created. So this is it. For those who like to take a look at this, or possibly you like to explore this, you would like to test it out, then links is going to be in the description, so do well to check it out. More so, for those who are thinking about getting access to any of these tools that were mentioned, which are secondary tools that you can use to make your animations better, or possibly you like to come over to Superhive, which is previously known as Blender Market, and take advantage of the launch bundle, which comes with 28 game-changing Blender tools that you can grab and start working with. Links to this as well is going to be in the description, so do well to check it out. Tell me what you guys think about this one in the comment section. And of course, if you like this video or you like something from this, you can go ahead and give a like, and don't forget to share with a friend. And until I see you guys in the next one, peace.